CrashNSTOST is the name of a modding tool that I've put together which lets you change the music in the Insane Trilogy on PC. Originally, CrashNSTOST was basically just a few music files in a zip folder. That's what the version I uploaded a few weeks ago was, when the game first came out on PC and I worked out how to change the music. Since then, this little project has evolved into something a bit more substantial, as has my understanding of how this game works. So I've been tinkering away the last few weeks and experimenting a lot and teaching myself how to write batch files, and the result of all of that is this latest version of CrashNSTOST, beta version 0.03, which has a few extra features, and I'm planning to hopefully release it to the world tomorrow. Hopefully. I'm going to try. It is pretty much finished now. I still need to change some stuff in the README, but all the code seems to be working alright, so I wanted to make a video showing how it all works and explaining a few things before I upload this new version, just to give you a preview / demonstration of everything kind of thing. So I'm going to put this in a zip file and put a link to it on my website like I did with the other versions. It will be up on cogmonkey.com/CrashNSTOST. That URL is case sensitive, which is actually kind of annoying, but I'll put a link in the description of this video, and I'll add a link to the homepage of my website as well once this new version is up, so you don't need to worry too much about finding it. I will make it easier. And with the other versions, you needed to move this folder into the archives folder where you have the game installed. This time you don't need to do that. You can copy it wherever you want. You can have it on any hard drive or USB stick. As long as the game is installed somewhere on your computer, you can run this from anywhere. So the first time you run CrashNSTOST.exe, that's a lot of acronyms, you'll get this message the first time you run it asking you to launch the game, and this is how it finds out where the files for your game are located. So you only have to do this once unless you move the game for some reason, or I guess if you want to run this from a USB and use it on multiple computers, then you might want to change it then, but I have included an option to reset that information if you want to. Anyway, once you open the game, it will work out where the files are and you can close it again. And like it says here, I would recommend you leave the game closed while you're modding stuff. If you try to import something into a file that the game has loaded, then it won't work, and I haven't programmed in every possible error you might run into by doing stuff like that. So the safest thing to do is just to do all your modding while the game is closed, and I won't accept any responsibility if you break something really badly by not doing that. Anyway, once this thing knows where your game is, it will tell you on here on the menu where it is, and if that's wrong because you move the game or whatever, then you can reset it and do the check again using this option right here. But I don't need to do that because this is where my game is. That's W for Windows because I'm doing this on a MacBook. But here we go. These are the options that I've included in this version. I won't go through the README because I'm still writing it, but you can read it from the menu, and you might not need to if you watch this whole video, but if something doesn't work properly, please do check it before you write any angry comments, because I might have explained something in there that I forget to mention now. So have a look at the README, there's some important stuff in there. But I'll just run through all the other options we have here so you can see how they work. The first thing is backup default Insane Trilogy music. I haven't included the default music in this folder anywhere, but this will extract it from your files if you are still using the default music. So if you've never modified the music before, this is very simple. You just pick option 1 and let it do its thing. It is quite a slow process, so it might be easier for you to just use the Steam file verification thing to restore the default music. It depends on your internet speed, I guess, but the option's there if you want it. And doing it this way takes up a lot less disk space than making copies of all the pack files, so there are some benefits to doing this. If you open up this backup folder, you can watch the music files appear in here while it's backing up, so this gives you an idea of how long it's going to take if you know roughly how much music is in the game. Last time I tested this, earlier today, it took about 25 minutes to finish the backup, so you might not want to bother waiting for that, but if you do, then there you go. If you don't know anything about how the music works in this game, then you might be interested to know that you can just play these in VLC or whatever. They are basically just MP3 files with an FSB header, so you can just play them like any normal music file, which is nice, I suppose. And with the first couple of versions of CrashNSTOST, I recommended to everyone that they should copy all the original pack files somewhere to create a backup, and I don't think it would be fair if people couldn't use this option without a complicated workaround just because they followed the advice that I gave them with the other versions. So there is an option to extract the music from those original pack files if you copied them somewhere and combine that with a backup of everything else. And there might not be many people who ever want to use that option, but again, it's there if you want it. And if you do make a backup, then once it's finished, I would recommend making a copy of the backup folder somewhere in case you want to use a later version of CrashNSTOST to restore it in the future. But it's up to you. Do whatever you want. Once you have a backup, you can re-import the backed up files back into the game using this restore option, which is hopefully fairly self-explanatory. Now, option number 4 here is basically what the original versions of this mod were. It imports the PS1 music from Crash 1 into the Insane Trilogy. The quality of this music is not brilliant by any means, but it does work better in this version than it did before. The looping in particular is much better, so there's no huge gaps whenever a song repeats now, which is nice. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. And now that I have a proper music converter set up, it shouldn't take me too long to get the original soundtracks for Crash 2 and 3 together and include those as well. I'm just not sure yet if I'm going to do the same as I did with Crash 1 and get some low quality stuff just so it's in the game and then find something better later on, or if I should aim to get the final versions done first time around. I don't know. Let me know what you think, and please let me know if you have high quality rips of the original soundtracks. A few people have mentioned that to me already, but I've just really lost track of my messages and everything the last couple of weeks. It's been a bit crazy, but if you can help with that, then I would very much appreciate it. Anyway, for now, this will just import the PS1 music for Crash 1 into the game. So just pick option 4, say yes, and let it get on with it. This next option is here because after I released the first versions of this mod, I did a Twitter poll asking what I should add next, and the winning vote was for pre-console music. So here you go. This will import every piece of pre-console music that is currently available for all 3 games of the trilogy, not including demo tracks and unused stuff. This will just replace every piece of music in the game that has a pre-console version available. And if you start the import for this one and watch it run for a bit, you might notice that it's importing to some levels that Josh hasn't uploaded a pre-console version for. For example, Jungle Rollers, there isn't a pre-console version of that level's music, but there is a pre-console version of the Torna bonus round music. So that's why that level and a lot of others that you might not expect are in the list. I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone thinks it's a mistake that there's stuff being imported into those levels. I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes while writing all the code for this, but that bit is deliberate, just so you know. And if you want to hear the difference between the normal PS1 music and the pre-console versions, then you can just listen to them like you can with the default music. Some are more different than others, and all of them are pretty different to the default Insane Trilogy versions. If you want to have a combination of PS1 and pre-console music, then you can. Just remember, every time you import something, it will replace whatever you had before. So you'll need to work out what order you want to do it in, but you can have combinations of different stuff if you want. And the same applies to custom music, which I guess is the biggest thing about this release, and the thing that's most likely to not work properly if you're not careful. There's some information about what works in the README. Right now, I'm just going to show you what I actually do to get music into the right format for conversion. This is what works for me, and this is how I converted all the PS1 and pre-console music that's included in this release. I actually used this converter instead of doing it manually, just to make sure it actually works. So the main limitation with this is that whatever music you want to use has to be less than 2 minutes and 52 seconds long in order to work properly. It will still be converted and imported if it's longer than that, but when you listen to it in-game, it will restart after 2 minutes 52. I haven't found a way to get music longer than that working properly yet, but if I do manage it, I'll update this to fix that. It doesn't matter how long the music you want to replace is. Even if it's only a minute long, you can replace it with something up to 2 minutes 52. There are a few exceptions to this rule, but I'll explain that in a minute. Right now, I just want to demonstrate a method of getting music into the right format that definitely works. I mean, it works for me. This is what I do. So I have here an MP3 file that I've downloaded from YouTube. I thought this might be an interesting piece of music to import into a Crash Bandicoot game, and I will just open the game, even though I said it's best not to do any modding while it's running, because it will make the demonstration quicker. So don't try this at home. This isn't recommended. I'll just mute the game for a minute and drag it out the way while I mess with the music. So I've been using Audacity to get the music into the right format. I'm sure people who actually know something about music production will be really angry about that, because I could probably get much better results by using something professional, but all I know is doing it this way works, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. So it doesn't matter if your music isn't an MP3 file to start with, because you'll need to convert it to a specific kind of MP3 anyway. It needs to have a sample rate of 48,000 Hertz and a bit rate of 128 kilobits per second. To achieve that in Audacity, this is what I've been doing. So you need to open or import your music. You can see with this one it fades out and then there's a long period of silence. I'm not going to bother editing it to loop perfectly this time, but I'll cut out the silence just to show that it will repeat once it's faded out. And then you need to change the project rate down here to 48,000. Then export it as an MP3 and set the bitrate mode to constant and the quality to 128, and make it stereo just to be safe. I've had some issues there, but mostly with sound effects rather than music, but just to be safe, I would say make it stereo. That's basically all you need to do. For the converter to work, it needs to be saved as input.mp3 in the custom folder of CrashNSTOST. So I'll just save it straight there now. And also, for good measure, I'd say clear all the metadata, just because it'll clutter up the file and it might mess things up a bit. And with that, we're done with Audacity now. And yeah, you might have noticed an example MP3 file, which I'm including with this. If you want to rename that to input.mp3 and import it, you might have some fun with that. I don't know. It's just to show you what kind of format your music should be in. That one is saved with these settings. So have a look at that if you're having some problems. So if I go back to this menu and choose the option to convert and import custom music, it's going to give me a message explaining what format it should be in, which is what I've just explained. There's something here about 1 minute 44, and I'll explain what that means after this. For now, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to say yes to run the converter, and now it's telling me that it's created a file called output.snd in the custom folder. And if you want to import it manually, you can, but this thing does include an importer, so I'm going to use it. And it says a list of music files you're able to replace will be displayed. This is a very basic importer that will allow you to replace all instances of the song you choose throughout the game. If a song is used in multiple levels but you only want to replace it in one of them, then you'll have to do it manually. I'm going to press enter to show the list. So this is every music file that I have included in the importer. Most of these are SND files. There's a few IGZs at the bottom, or IGZs, IGS files, I guess. I'm going to pick an SND file because that is the standard. Before I do, I have just sneakily loaded a level while the game was off screen. This is Jungle Rollers, and I'm going to replace the music for this level with the Sonic music. I just wanted to show you how it sounds at the moment for the purposes of the demonstration. So here you go. And if I quit the level, go back to this list, I can find the file I want to replace in here somewhere. Here it is at number 9. It might just be worth mentioning that this Insanity Beach track at number 8 here is actually the inner jungle music for that level. You can see it actually says part 2. If you want to replace the beach music, it's down here at 25. Also, I'm not sure if this title screen version of Insanity Beach is actually used anywhere, because it seems that this game select one is the version that actually plays on the title screen, but I included it anyway. There's a few other music files in here that have a few interesting properties, but I won't bother going through that now. I'm getting distracted, so let's go for option 9 and see what happens. This is going to replace the music in both levels that use the Jungle Rollers music, i.e. Jungle Rollers and Rolling Stones, and the number of levels that a song is used in will determine how long the import process takes. So the Torna music will take longer than any other piece of music in the game because it's used in most of the levels in Crash 1. So that one will take a few minutes probably, but this one's only in 2 levels, so it's not too long. And it has been imported, and you can see I've made it clear that it might not have worked because this whole thing is so experimental and because I don't actually know what I'm doing. But hopefully it has worked. Let's go back to the game and unmute again and reopen Jungle Rollers. Oh, isn't it beautiful? The Sonic's ass prophecy has finally come true. I love it. This is really nice. Let's I'll just leave it playing for a minute so you can hear the whole thing. I'll shut up for a minute. So there you go. I could have tweaked it to make it loop properly, but that's not part of this demonstration. You can work out how to do that for yourself. So I can quickly hop over to Rolling Stones just to make sure it's worked there as well. Great, perfect. That is awesome. I'm really very proud of the fact that this actually works. I can't wait for hundreds of people to inevitably tell me that it doesn't work for them, but for now I'm just enjoying this moment because I'm really happy with this. Anyway, what about those IGZ files? Well, if you look through the files for this game, then most of them are actually IGZ files, which is some kind of compressed something. I don't really know. Almost all of the music is stored as SND files, but for some reason there are a few songs that are in IGZ format instead. Actually, they're in exactly the same format as sound effects, which is weird. And those are the 4 songs that play in the Crash 2 Warp Room and the Aku Aku music. Don't ask me why those are different, they just are. That's just how the world has decided it should be. And it took me a while to get to grips with that format because it's a bit more complicated than the SND files, but I did work it out eventually, and so I've been able to include those songs in the importer. And the only real practical difference between replacing these files and replacing the SND files is that the time limit is reduced to 1 minute 44. And again, if I can work out how to get around those time limits, I will, but for now, if you want to replace one of those 4 songs, then you're limited to 1 minute 44. You can make the Aku Aku music last for 1 minute 44 if you want, even though invincibility only lasts for 20 seconds. Go crazy. It will take any MP3 file that works with the SND files and import it the same way, so do whatever you want with those, have fun. I think the more interesting aspect of working out how to convert music into this weird fake sound effect format is that it means I do know how to make custom sound effects now. I was going to include a sound effects converter in this release, but it still needs a bit of adjusting, so I'm going to hold off on that for a bit. What I have included is the option to import the classic PS1 1-up sound effect, just because I wanted to prove that custom sound effects are actually possible, and I wanted to give a little preview of a potential PS1 sound effects mod that I might include in this in the future. I'm not going to bother demonstrating that one, just try it yourself. It should work, and there will be more in the future. This option will simply open an Explorer window at whatever folder your game is located in case you want to access it quickly. That's really just something I thought would be useful for me while I was messing around with the archives. Actually, everything about CrashNSTOST has just evolved from BAT files that I wrote to make my life easier while modding the music. And as I explained earlier, you can reset the game file's location if you need to using this, and that is about it for this version. It is very likely that this isn't going to work properly for you, but it is still a very early beta, and given my complete lack of experience in ever doing anything like this before, ever, I'm amazed it works as well as it does. I will hopefully be able to get this released tomorrow or sometime over the weekend, and depending on when you watch this, it might already be out. Check my website, check my Twitter. I know a lot of people have been messaging me the last few weeks and tweeting me and commenting on YouTube and Reddit and emailing me, and I haven't done a very good job of responding so far just because I've been so focused on getting to this point with the project. So I'm really sorry if I haven't got back to you. It's all been a bit overwhelming. Once this is released, I am thinking about doing a live stream of the Insane Trilogy. Maybe just playing Crash 1 with modded music and the double jump or something. I don't know. But if you have any questions or anything you want to know, any behind the scenes stuff about how all this works, that might be a good opportunity to catch me when I can actually respond to you. I normally stream on Twitch, but I might try YouTube for once, because why not? I don't know. I'll tweet about it when it happens. I'll let you know. My next aims with CrashNSTOST are more PS1 music, better PS1 music, more sound effects, and a finished functional sound effects converter, and more pre-console music whenever it's released. Yeah, that's what I want to do next. I hope this video was helpful. Sorry if it wasn't. I hope you can make this thing work, and if you can't, then let me know what the problem is and I'll try to help. I might have a day off, but I'll try to get it fixed if there's a problem. And I hope you have a lovely day. See you soon.